No mai, haere mai ki te tēnei hui, ko Jennifer Leaho. Welcome to you all. Thanks for joining today, Thursday, the 17th of October. Great to see you all, and great to see a number of you that I've seen before. Welcome back, those of you who've been before, and welcome for those of you who are new. So welcome to our adult and community education adult teaching modules. This session today is going to be about planning in particular, and I just want to start with a whakatauki, a proverb which I chose that I think really helps for me thinking about planning for teaching. Te toia, te haumatia. So that is in English, nothing can be achieved without a plan. Workforce, of course, and a way of doing things. So today we're going to focus primarily on the planning for teaching, but of course, as the whakatauki tells us, it's about a workforce we need as well. So this session, as I said, was about planning. It's got the title of Mindful Design, Planning for Powerful Learning Sessions today. And I look forward to exploring that in the next hour with you. So each of these modules is aligned to the adult and community education teaching standards. And this particular module today focuses on indicator 5.1, which is around using planning to connect knowledge with effective ways of learning. So we've gone through quite a lot of the indicators and coming to the last ones of the 17 at the moment as we draw near to the end of the year. Thank you for those of you who've joined before, and also thank you to those of you who work with the adult and community education teaching standard. So that's a little bit there about me. Some of you know this already. So I am the Teaching Standards Advisor. That's me in the middle there with a very flowery dress. And a little bit of my background is in teaching adults, and I've had the privilege of working at Christchurch Women's Prison for 12 years. I taught also the men in prisons before that, and at the same time. I've taught the Diploma of Teaching, Adult Teaching, and the Certificate of Adult Teaching at the University of Canterbury. I've taught at ARA, the Polytech here in Ōtautahi, and importantly, I also work for Ako Aotearoa, but one day a week I get to work for ACE Aotearoa, and it's work that I absolutely love. So it's great to be with you. I know I can't find out all of your details, but certainly I recognise many of you there on the chat today. But if you haven't already, would you mind putting your name in the chat so everyone can see your role and your location? I'll just give you an outline of what we're going to do today from the point of view of this 1 hour session. So we'll talk very briefly about you and planning. I've got a few different approaches to planning I'd like you to consider, and then talk about your experience with planning in breakout rooms that Viv's going to support me with. And then at the end, so what is it that you might do that's a little bit different in your practice? So how do you plan? I'm interested in you as a group telling me about any one of these. You don't have to deal with all three, but when you plan anything in your life, maybe you get to go on a fabulous holiday soon, maybe you get to go to fabulous supermarket shopping, maybe you, like the botanic gardens here in Christchurch, have some lovely gardens that you plan. How do you go around it? Now, you'll notice that I've put up there, say one thing around the screen. So I'm interested in going around the screen now, and I'll start with you, Ruth, Jeanette, and then Judith, and then Marg, and then I'll tell you the next ones. But if you wouldn't mind telling me how you go about planning anything like that in your life. Okay, thanks, Ruth, if you wouldn't mind. So that means you need to unmute. So we've got Ruth, Jeanette, Judith, Marg to start with. Would you mind telling me
I write
how
a
you plan?
I
Thanks,
write
Ruth.
a short I write a short list for grocery shopping
Yep, great, and it works. Cool, thanks.
sometimes.
Thank you. What about you, Jeanette?
I have a loose list of a few things I need to get
Yes,
and
okay.
and then go, yeah.
Then go a loose list, okay. All right, what about for you, Judith?
Aside from the ones that our colleagues have said, so for holidays, for example, whether local or overseas, so what I do is I ask first my family members, where do you want us to go now? Or maybe, yeah, during the holiday. So that's one thing that I do. Try to consult with them.
Consult with people. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks so
Mm.
much, Judith. And then on to you, Mark.
Very impulsive with supermarket shopping and gardening,
Yes.
which is fun. But the opposite with holidays. I like it to be, I get quite organized and I'm a bit of the planner, and my friends
Right.
always laugh because they say, here comes the plan.
Right.
So yeah, and I've got a holiday next year and I'm trying to actually be less planned about it, a little bit more
Right.
flexible. But I think maybe it is because you invest more money in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, could well be that. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Thanks. So thank you for the first four. I'll move around my screen. That means it's Anne-Marie next, then Bianca, then Kate, then Ruby, then Marie, then is it Maki, is it? Yeah. So I'll go to that next list around my screen. If you could tell me one thing about how you plan for holidays, supermarket shopping, or gardening, any one of those. Thanks, Anne-Marie.
I'm a writer, pen and paper. Yeah, I don't write on screens. So yeah, I write lists of
Yeah.
things and plans for work and plans. Yeah, write lists. And I'm kinesthetic, so writing is important
Yes.
for me.
Yeah, yeah.
And visual.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. What about for you, Bianca?
I think if I think about holidays, I like to have a good plan. I figure out where I want to go first, and then
Yes.
I kind of work backwards from there. How am I going to get there? Where am I staying? And I like to have a good itinerary.
Right.
So I like to have a really good plan.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Bianca. All right. Let's move on. We're going to Kate, Ruby, Marie, and then Mako. Yeah, thanks.
I'm the opposite of Marg. I plan for food and gardening. I have a notebook for gardening and a list for my food and meal planning. But
Yes.
holidays, it's like the night before. Oh, flip. How are we getting to the next country? How many days are we going to stay there? Where are we going to stay? And this is personal experience, 10 weeks overseas this year, planning every night the night before. And it was brilliant,
wow.
but don't want to do it like that again.
No. It's so amazing, isn't it, to hear the diverse range of ways that people plan these events in our life, like holidays or even supermarket shopping. Yeah. Thank you, Kate. Gosh, I feel a little bit stressed by that, thinking about it. No. Cool. It sounds like it all worked out. What about for you, Ruby?
Kia ora koutou from sunny Gisborne.
Lovely.
Yeah, like several of the ladies, I'm an avid writer. So
Right.
everything gets jotted down, put on nice paper, scraps of paper, and referred to, and hopefully I never forget anything.
Yeah, great. Hopefully. Cool. Thanks, Ruby. And how about, hello again, Marie. What about for you?
I'd just like to say I'm not going on holiday with Kate ever. It's doing my head in.
Yeah.
For me, mine sound unusual. The first thing I think about is the budget. What budget am I going to spend on any of these things?
Yeah.
And I am a writer.
Yeah. And actually, I don't think you are unusual. I think a lot of people do that. Yeah, for sure. So then we come to you, Marky, please. Kia ora.
Kia ora, everyone. I'm a list person. Doesn't matter if it's handwritten or typed on my phone notes, but I kind of like things structured.
Right.
And with I planned a holiday with my best buddy and I. We've known each other 50 years, so we decided let's go to Melbourne. And so that was the first thing, not the budget. We said we're going to Melbourne, and then we planned around how much we might need. And and we had a loose itinerary, but we said we might do this and we might do that, but I said let's go to a show because I knew that she hadn't been to one for a while, and it was her birthday, so I'm a list person, but I'm not very good at supermarket lists. My lists kind of things appear in my shopping cart that weren't on my list. So it's useless for that.
Okay.
But holidays, but I'll make a list just to go to the beach or to go to the swimming pool, because I'll forget something, you know, shampoo or moisturizer or whatever. But I'm a list person. That's how I organise.
Great, thank you. Now there's a few people I think I've missed, isn't there? There's Heidi. What about for you, please? Kia ora.
Good everyone. Yeah, just the same as everyone else. Pretty much, I write a list. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's pen or paper or my phone, but yeah, I like things to be structured, very organized, and yeah. But then when it doesn't go to plan, I have a plan A, B, and C. So
nice.
yeah.
Thanks for mentioning that. Great, thanks, Heidi. I see I can't see you, Amber, but are you okay to talk?
Yep, all good, all good. Kia ora, everybody. So I am a list person and I consult as well. So like the supermarket shopping, let my kids have a bit of a say. Is there anything particularly you want this week? We're doing a trip soon to Aussie. Are there any things that you missed last time we went that you want to do this time? So get the buy-in from them. And then they help me with the cooking if they have a buy-in on the supermarket shopping.
Oh, wow. Yes, that's a great idea. Good on you. Thank you. Thanks, Amber. And Philippa?
Hi, yes, I guess I'm a writer too. The task is slightly different. When it comes to holidays, I'm one who likes to read reviews of accommodation, places to go, and so get a sense of how time is going to be spent. It definitely relates to budget and how I'm going to do that and what I want to achieve. When it comes to the supermarket, I guess one thing that I'm trying to do in particular is I do write lists, but I do go to my pantry and fridge and check that I don't already have some of those things, because my children are forever telling me off, like, Mum, we remember when we lived at home that you'd had like things way past their use by date in the fridge, which are just at the back of the fridge. So I've got to remember not to double up. But I guess that's where the additional things that I would add to that. And unfortunately, I'm not a gardener, just because I'm not very successful, not green fingered.
It's okay. Yeah.
There we go. Thanks.
Good. Thanks. Great. Thanks, Philippa. Good to hear from you. Then we have Dawn. Are you happy to share, please?
I do write a list, but I actually based it off a meal plan. So, because I found I'd buy a lot of things that I never cooked for the week, so I'd actually do a plan for the week of a meal, and then I knew what to buy.
Yeah. That's great. Good on you, Dawn. Thank you. And Sally, I haven't seen you talk to you. Thanks.
In terms of holidays, I guess I kind of am a bit of I like to do the research and have a rough plan. I like to make sure accommodation's booked in, but other than that, I'm pretty happy to go with the flow.
Yeah. All right. Great. So a few different ideas. Tanya, thank you.
Yeah, I'm like the rest of them said, I'm a list person. I like to know where I'm going and what's going to happen and do a bit of research behind that.
Lovely. Yeah, good. Thanks, Tanya. I think that's everyone now. Great. Thank you. So the next thing I'm just going to move on to is teaching. So we've had a good warm up with each other around everyday life planning activities, but how do you get on? How do you plan when you teach? And for this question, I've asked Viv if she would break you into breakout rooms so you can have a chance to talk in more detail to people and hear what sort of ways that they plan for teaching. After this, I'll show you a few different approaches, but I think it's always nice to learn from people's prior experience and to acknowledge the way that you plan already. Welcome back. Any comments anyone wants to share?
We talked very much around having some degree of structure, in fact, with people people understanding what you'd planned for them, and so kind of being able to match up what the goals were of the learners, but also to how you plan to meet those goals for whether it be in a class or however you were doing it. And I think we likened it a little bit to like if you go into a meeting and you don't know what it's going to be about, you're worried. And so I think that was part of giving the confidence to the students that you've actually got some degree of planning. But then we also talked about being flexible with that if maybe they needed to go off piece or it wasn't quite working, being relaxed about that. And I'd relate that to the holidays, going, okay, that didn't work, but we're going to do this instead. So
Sure. Yeah. Nice. Thanks very much, Mark. Anyone else have any comments from your groups?
I think for our group, it was the same but different. We all liked to plan and have some sort of structure when we delivered, or have a script so we knew what we were going to say, some practical suggestions on how to prepare, that sort of thing. So.
Lovely. Thank you, Maki. Yeah, so quite a range there for sure. Yes, Marie.
One of the things we thought was important is plans are great, but sometimes the students will lead off and come on with some ideas that are really, really good. And it's nice for them to take a little bit of charge and take a little bit of the session themselves if it's going to flow into their goals. Be adaptable.
Yeah, I like that, Marie. Thank you. Yeah, I always think that's a good thing to be able to do and to respond to your learner needs. Yeah. As long, I guess, as it doesn't happen all the time. I mean, my children tell me of stories when they were at secondary school, and I'm sure you know this or have done it yourself, of sabotaging teachers. There was one particular teacher who loved to talk about the dodo bird. And so they would get the teacher on the subject of the dodo and completely sabotage the whole lesson that was meant to be about maths or something like that. So I think that's the risk, but I mean, it's always joyful and responsive, and honouring, I think, isn't it, to work with what your learners want at the time, but just that note of caution there. Great, thank you. So let's just move on, and I've got a few ideas here around different approaches. Many of these you'll be familiar with yourself. So some clear 4 points here around planning, and sometimes you might choose to plan like this, other times it may not work for you, but I quite like this simple framework here. And of course, starting with the learning outcome, what it is that you want to achieve always, and I'm sure you do that, whether it's an outcome or a learning objective. What are you wanting to achieve, and then work backwards from that. Then moving on to what do you want the learners to learn? That is, of course, often that's the main reason we are planning. We need to think about it rather than drift, rather than just respond only. We need to have a really clear steer, and often that's guided by a curriculum or unit standards, or what the purpose of the whole session is about, or it can be qualification based as well. Then it's looking at the various steps needed to get there, which is obviously a straightforward idea, and then what is the key learning. So I quite liked this simple 4-part structure to start with. Many of you, if you've attended the face-to-face successfully teaching adults workshops, will have heard me say this before. That's around learning objectives. What are the learning objectives? These are the 2 key questions that I always ask myself before planning a session. In the orange box, what do I want the learner to know at the end of the lesson? And in the grey box, what do I want the learner to be able to do at the end of this lesson? So whilst there's probably a lot of other key questions around writing learning outcomes, I find these 2 simple questions here really useful, really helpful for me for guiding my planning always. Do ask any questions as I go. So I'm now going to share with you 4 approaches to planning. So there are 4 that I've found for you, and I've put the references at the end slide there. So they range from a simple plan outline to a medium one, I've called it, to a more complex, and then a more complex with timing. And then I have used ChatGPT too, just to give you a different approach. So these are just names that I've given them because I found them and I thought, well, that sums it up quite nicely. So here's our simple one, and it is perfectly useful to use, isn't it? When I plan a session, I think about my objectives or learning outcomes. I have an intro, and then I do the teaching or the instruction, as this is called in this plan. then I have a conclusion, and then I have some kind of evaluation at the end of the lesson. So that's a very simple approach to planning. Nothing wrong with that. It covers everything that needs to be covered. This one is a slightly more involved one. I've called it the medium plan idea. So very similar to the simple one, whereby I have a welcome and introduction there. This one is acknowledging the importance of icebreakers or warm-ups there, so making sure that that's a key part of the lesson. Then, of course, it's about teaching content. This one is reminding us too about the importance of activity. So it's perhaps a short session where we teach something and then we reinforce the teaching by having an activity. I like this one because it does enable us to debrief as well. I guess it's a bit like the simple one, which was around conclusion. But this one as well similarly has the evaluation. So just 2 more steps, but I think it adds a whole lot more from the point of view of planning. Now, this one here is quite complex, and again, some of you may have seen this one before. It's an order that I use in the Successfully Teaching Adults workshop. So that's the face-to-face workshop. And if you haven't attended and you'd like one in your region, do let me know, because they are free that I can offer, and you can attend as long as you have 10 people. I can provide it for you. So this exercise here I do in that workshop, and I was thinking I'd give it a go this morning. So it is a planning technique, and I can send you the information around this after the workshop. But I've deliberately put this this planning order out of order, and wondering what you would start with when you planned a lesson. So I have another order that's you could say is the right order, but let's just say there's no particular right or wrong. What this planning guide offers us, or model, are a whole lot of different aspects of planning that we can include in a lesson. Now, we don't necessarily need to, but usually each of these are a good way to start and consider. So have we got, for example, the topic? So yeah, we might want to start with topic. So what's the topic? What might we do next after topic? Anyone like to share with me what you might do next?
People? Are
People.
you thinking
Yeah.
about introducing each other?
Yeah. So you could have the people next. Yeah, for sure. So they're sharing, getting to know each other. Cool. What might you then put after people? Topic, people, objectives. Then what might we do after that? This next bit is reasonably fluid.
I'd do resources to show them what I'm going to be, demonstrate whatever we're going to be using, resources.
Right, okay, because sometimes, yeah, it does depend on what you're teaching too. Some people put resources further down, yeah. Thanks, Marie. So we've got topic, people, objectives, resources. What else could happen? Or some of you might dispute that and think you might put something else next.
Structure?
Yes. Structure, yeah. So you could do that. People like to have a sense of the structure. So we've got let's see, the topic, people, objectives, resources, and then we've got structure. What might happen next?
Would it be methods, how we're going to go about this?
Yes, you could go with methods after that. As I say, these are fluid, these ones around structure, methods, content, and even activities. Yeah. Yes.
Can I just ask, are we using this while we're in our planning phase, or are you thinking about this when you're actually in the session? Because I feel some of those things would change in how one's brain is working when you're planning it versus when you're actually teaching it.
Yeah. I think what I like about this model is it prompts me to think about all of these things when I'm planning the session. So at times I may not have a different sort of section for methods or structure. I might merge them together, for example, or resources and activities. I might merge them together. But I think what I like the most about this model is it prompts me to think about, have I considered where activities will go in the session? Have I considered the content? Have I got a structure for those people who like structure? Or am I just going here to there to there? So, of course, you know, it's probably simple. We follow the medium plan, for example. We would always have content and activity, but this one just takes it a step further in making sure we've got structure, methods, content, etc. Yeah. Hope that's answered your question, Mark. Yeah. So we've got topic, people, objectives, resources, structure, methods. What might you put next?
I guess if there's some assessment required, that may go next before feedback and maybe evaluation, if that's a
yeah. Okay. Anyone got anything? I think we've left one out, haven't we? We've got activities. Yeah, so we maybe put that in there as well. Anyone have any different thinking about, thanks, Kate, any different thinking about assessment and feedback? Anyone have any comments on that in an order?
I would always do assessment and then feedback in that order for me, because I like to hear how they feel about it. But then, and they can see their assessment, whether they've sort of got there or they haven't, or that was really hard and I want to do it again.
Yeah. So you do feedback first, Marie, then assessment?
No, other way around.
Oh, other way around, beg pardon. You do assessment, then feedback.
Yeah, I'd like them to assess their work.
Yes.
And then tell me how they feel they've done by seeing what's in front of them.
Yeah. Cool.
Of their own ticks and crosses.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Marie. Anyone else have any comments about assessment and feedback here?
I would just say that sometimes, because I don't do anything that's requiring an official assessment, that often the activities run are a sort of form of assessment.
Yes,
like you might do a Quizlet, quiz or something like that. And it's an activity, but it's also sort of giving people an idea of whether they've nailed the content or not. Or so I think sort of built into the activities sometimes.
Yeah, great. Thank you. It is too. And it's a good way of actually disguising assessment, actually, by putting it into the activities. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Any other comments on whether you'd put where you might put feedback and assessment?
I often think too, assessment is, depending on the size of the group, is just an ongoing thing. Like moment to moment kind of attunement with or learners are going as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jeanette. Yeah. And that's just something to consider for sure, that you may want to use assessment early on. So, as some of you saw in this model here, this is the model of planning for teaching that I've used, and you can see it starts with the topic there, as opposed to topic, then objectives, then people. So one of the things this one does is, as you said at the end, the same, you put assessment, feedback, evaluation. But one of the challenges I often offer with this complex model is to consider using assessment along the way. So not just leaving it till the end, but assessing as you go. And similarly, feedback, giving feedback as you go. So making sure that you can, your learners know. So yeah, feedback is one that I try and utilize around earlier on in that model. But that's the formal version of that model. But as I said, some of those ideas around methods, activities, resources, content, structure, I think we can tweak into what works best for you. Okay, just a couple more approaches here. So here's our more complex one with timing. Some people are very clear on timing, and certainly for me, in my early days when I was teaching, and particularly when I was anxious about teaching men in prison in particular, I was very precise with my session plan. So would break it down very accurately into this type of plan. So you can see the other ones that we've used earlier didn't do this. So this one might be helpful for you there, in that it does talk about warm up again, but it gives the time frame for it, talks about how the learning happens actively, then it gives an opportunity to report back. So I like that idea because it's involving the learners early on and them exploring the learning, them doing the learning, and therefore they'll remember this learning the most. So it's then a chance to do that or present, report to the whole class. Just 5 minutes on a quiz. So your idea earlier of assessing and a quiz is utilised there. A nice open question. So what is it you've learned today? And then a very brief evaluation type, wrap up type reflection. What is it you're going to stop doing? What is it you'll start doing? And what will you keep from your session today? And then linking the learners on to the next session, telling them about their next learning goal. So what's happening next. So I really like this one too. And those of you who enjoy those timeframes will find that one particularly helpful. And then we just move to the last one before I just check in with you about your approaches. So this last one here, I wrote into ChatGPT the blue box here. So I asked it to write me a lesson plan. Now, this isn't everything that it gave me. It gave me a lot more script than this, but I was interested that it definitely highlighted the objective that I needed to cover. It talked about the materials that I'd need, and then it gave me a very full session outline of an introduction, key principles, an activity, a reflection and a wrap up, and then it gives me quite a lengthy follow up. Now, sometimes lately I have been working with this, just seeing what ChatGPT comes up with. I'm finding mostly that I don't use the ideas, but what it gives me is a boost, because sometimes I'll sit and think, what am I going to teach it? Or how am I going to teach this? Or how am I going to make it interesting? Or what's a new activity? And sometimes instead of just feeling like I'm wasting time, if I go to ChatGPT and write it in, it just manages somehow to give me ideas and it prompts me. And even if it prompts me with thinking, nah, that's not going to work, I'm not going to do that. What it does is gets me going. And then I think, oh no, I'll do that. So perhaps unconsciously it is helping me, get started. Let me just see. I think a few have put some comments in the chat. Is there anything there I need to take note of there? Just seeing.
So, yeah, Maki would use the complex planning for a program and the simple format for an individual session.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah. So a different approach for different sessions.
Yeah,
They've also go assessment. Oh, they said assessment, feedback, and evaluation a length they feel, and that they always include a 10-minute break.
Nice.
In the session.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. That's great. Yeah. Thank you. And just maybe some of you are experimenting with ChatGPT too. I'd be interested. It's Ruby, are you saying you do use ChatGPT yourself? Is that what you agree with?
That was an agreement with how we said we'd use the more complex one for the program.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And then the simpler one for the session planning. No, I'm not au fait with any AI or anything like that.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, and perhaps this has prompted you because at the moment, just the simple version of ChatGPT is free, so you can sign up for it and use it, and it can be useful to experiment. So, and Amber, thank you. Do you mind telling me a little bit about that? Yes, I can see it. Thanks, Viv.
Yeah, we because I'm in the learning and teaching development team, so we sort of all over the AI stuff.
Yes.
So
Great.
I find Google Gemini, it used to be called Google Bard.
Yes.
It's just, and it's linked in with Google. I just find it's a little bit more accurate and it's a little bit wider with the
Right.
ideas it will come with, because ChatGPT learns from itself and learns from
Yes.
what's being inputted.
Yes.
Whereas Google was obviously, Gemini was linked to Google from the start. So just it tends to be a little bit more wider with its ideas and a little bit more creative as
Yes.
well.
Oh, great. Yeah. Thank you so much, Amber, for sharing that. Yes, of course, I mean, I'm not promoting ChatGPT as the only AI, but it is one probably that I utilize. But I'll have a look at Google Gemini, and as you say, that might be more useful for teaching. So perhaps some of these ideas have prompted you today to think about what you might stop, what you might start, and what you might keep going, because we'll come to the end now and think about, firstly, which approach you use. Some of you have already shared that with me, that you use the various ones, the simple one with individuals perhaps, and the complex one with the groups. Do you use the one with timing? I'll be interested in what things you might want to take away from today, because we're coming to our close. Was there anything from today that you want to try in your practice, or you want to include in your practice? Perhaps if you could just write that in the chat, because often if we consciously write something, think about something, we tend to do it. So certainly for me, I'm going to give Google Gemini a go. Thank you for that, Amber. I see a few others of you nodding your heads, but if you were thinking about planning going forward, is there anything you might start doing from the various techniques? Will you just use the simple one? Will you use the complex with times? Will you use ChatGPT? So there's some lovely answers there. Thank you, Maki. You'll choose Google Gemini too. Jeanette, yeah, more mindfully about complex planning. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So when you use multi-sessions, you'll use that. Great to see that. Thanks, everyone. So just some different ideas today around planning. Thank you for sharing your ideas about planning with each other. And good that you've considered some of those other plans. There's no one format. I think, as we've identified, some will suit for various groups, for small groups or for individuals. So some of you are trying, or as I said, AI. That's good to see. Have Ruby, thank you. Yes, so Bianca, you're going to have a look at chat to do some lesson planning. It's just good to explore. As I say, it has been a prompt. And Marg, yep, you like the medium approach. Yes, the good complex one is good too. It does just depend. So I'm not going to say which one is right or wrong either, but just I think the key thing is that you've bothered to think about a range, bothered as in your learning. So you're updating your skills by coming to something like this, finding out more, learning from each other. And I just want to acknowledge that instead of just planning on the hoof or planning as you've always done, you're considering other approaches. So I'll just have a quick look there. Kate, thank you. You want to consider more ways to get feedback. Yes. Yeah, that's always a tricky one. And about assessment and evaluation after the teaching. I've done more of the icebreakers. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, great. That's lovely to read that you've done more icebreakers and that you like the opportunity, fact that it makes people feel really valued and creates a good atmosphere. Okay, thanks, Anne-Marie. Yes, chat and Gemini. Okay, I think we're just coming to a close. I'm sorry if I miss your comments in the chat, but thanks so much for your interaction with each other. One of the things I did just want to reinforce, and one of you, I'm sorry I've forgotten who, did say it very early on, whatever we do with planning, I think it's always good to have a plan B. And luckily, I'm traveling very soon to take a workshop in Palmerston North. So working from home, my laptop crashed. Luckily, my husband has a machine that I've tried to work for. So I had a plan B. So that's my plan B today. I've been modelling it very stressfully right at the last few minutes, grabbing his machine and presenting to you today. But thanks for your support. Thank you all for being here. Have a great rest of your Thursday. I hope it's sunny where you are. I want to close with this karakia. Kua mutu amato mahi, mō tēnei wā. Manakitia mai mātou katoa, o mātou hoa, o mātou whānau, ao kia te rangi. So peace to you all. Have a lovely Thursday, a lovely end of the week. Thanks so much for joining. Thank you, Viv.